It's green like Ireland, bagpipes can be heard at folk festivals and you switch off when you see bullfighting on TV. Galicia turns the usual image of Spain on its head. It has its cultural roots in the Celts, not the Moors like the south. Here, where the Atlantic rolls ashore with mighty waves and nature is shrouded in mysterious morning mists, the people speak a different language than in Madrid or Seville, for example, calmer, softer and with a dash of melancholy. Many visitors are drawn to the Rías Baixas, 4 fjord-like bays on the west coast, lined with beautiful beaches, vineyards and pine forests. The climate is sunnier and milder than in the rest of northern Spain. Many beaches are sheltered from the wind and the water heats up to 20 degrees Celsius in summer. The counterpart to this are the Rías Altas on the north coast. In the other areas of Galicia, however, bathing tourism plays a lesser role. Instead, the north coast delights visitors with its rugged cliffs and stormy capes, although wonderful beaches can also be found at these latitudes. Other treasures lie in the mountainous interior. There you will find pristine forests, dramatic gorges such as the Canyon do Sil, historic cities such as Ourense or Lugo, and Santiago de Compostela, one of Christianity's greatest pilgrimage destinations. Galicia is very different from the rest of the country, but an unmistakable piece of Spain. If you like this video, please support the Travel Owl channel with a like, comment, or subscription. Thank you. The coastal town, which is quite lively in summer, has several sandy beaches. The largest beach, Playa Ladera, stretches in an arc towards the neighboring town of Negrin. At first glance, modern apartment buildings along the coast obscure the charm of the historic harbour town, which gained some wealth in the 15th and 16th centuries through the privilege of overseas trade. Today, the municipality of Baiona has around 12,000 inhabitants. The small historic centre is characterised by medieval stone houses. The mighty fortress of Baiona is located on a peninsula in front of the old town. The old town is hidden behind the modern facades at the level of the harbour. The main street, Rua Ventura Mesa, runs parallel to the coastal road. Small alleyways branch off from it and form the traffic-calmed centre with stores, bars and restaurants. The Castillo de Baiona owes its construction to its strategically exposed location in the area of the southern Rías Baixas. The construction of the fortress dates back to the 11th century. At times, the Castillo offered protection for 200 families over an area of 18 hectares. From the walls and towers of the castle complex, there are beautiful views of the coastal landscape and the sea as far as the Illes Seas. With just under 300,000 inhabitants, Vigo is the largest city in Galicia. Until the 19th century, only a few thousand people lived here, living mainly from fishing. The coastal town was repeatedly attacked by pirates, so powerful fortresses were built, the ruins of which still shape the cityscape today. The small old town is grouped around the central square Plaza de Constitución, which already marked the town centre in the Middle Ages. Many of the buildings around the square with their beautiful arcades date back to the 18th century. Restaurants and bars have now moved into the former merchants' stores. A good place to have breakfast and watch the hustle and bustle in this popular meeting place. To the north of the square are the two towers of the Santa Maria Cathedral. The church was built in 1811 on the site of its predecessor. Oysters are a local specialty of Vigo. A good opportunity to try this seafood is in the restaurants along the Rua Pescaderia. At lunchtime, fresh oysters are also sold directly on the street. An alternative are the restaurants in the old fishing district of Barrio de Burbis. This district is located southwest of the cathedral along the Rua Real to the Praça dos Pescadores. Narrow alleyways and old stone houses make the district one of Vigo's main attractions. A crosswalk leads from the Praça de Pedra to the harbour. Cruise ships often moor at the large Muelle de Transatlánticos. Ferries to the Illes Seas and excursion boats to the neighbouring coastal towns depart from the eastern side of the harbour basin. The small coastal town of Cambados is located between the popular summer vacation destinations of Ilha de Arousa and the Oak Grove Peninsula. The small town is mainly a weekend destination for vacationers on this section of the Rías Baixas. Although tourism plays a certain role in the summer, Cambados lives primarily from fishing and viticulture. The town likes to call itself the capital of Albariño, a white wine variety that is cultivated in the surrounding area. The wide Praça de Fefanans Square with the Pozzo de Fefanans Manor House forms the centre of the historic town centre. In Galicia, a pozzo refers to a manor house, which is usually located in the countryside. The small palaces are often reinforced and fortified with towers. The Pozzo de Fefanans dates back to the 17th century and today houses a bodega. This was one of the first wine cellars to process the Albariño grapes typical of the region. The Albariño vines thrive in the mild climate of the Rías Baixas. They are typically grown on trellises up to 2 meters high. The dry white wines are drunk young in Galicia and, with their fine acidity, are a good accompaniment to seafood and fish dishes. Other sites in Cambados include the Church of San Benito, the ruins of the 16th century Church of Santa Marina d'Ozo with its cemetery, where burials still take place today, as well as other palaces and pozzos. The interior of Galicia offers extraordinary landscapes. One of these is the deep gorge of the River Sil in the Ribeira Sacra, on the border between the provinces of Lugo and Ourense. A tour along the Garganta del Sil is one of the scenic highlights of a trip through Galicia. The Rio Sil flows along the route of the canyon of the same name through a narrow valley with steep slopes over 500 meters high in a strict east-west direction before it joins the second important watercourse in Galicia, the River Minho, at Os Pés. The Cañón do Sil is located in the Ribeira Sacra region to the northeast of Ourense. This region is known for its excellent wines with a protected designation of origin. It was not the river itself that carved out this unique valley, as might be assumed. Rather, it was the tectonic shifting of rock plates that created this canyon. The sparsely populated area is the scene of many legends and stories. It is sometimes a gloomy place, but then again a bright one when the first rays of sunshine make their way through the high fog above the gorge in the morning. The Romans created terraces on the sunny steep slopes on the northern banks to grow wine here. The vines thrive excellently under favorable climatic conditions, enabling the production of many a good drop. It is reported that even Julius Caesar had wine brought to Rome from the Ribeira Sacra. Tui is one of the oldest towns in Galicia. The Iberians, Romans and Visigoths all settled here. The town's landmark is the Cathedral of Santa Maria. The Praça de San Fernando with the Cathedral of Tui forms the center of the old town. The town is the first stop on the Portuguese Way of St. James to Santiago de Compostela in Galicia. The old town of Tui is well laid out and there are only slight inclines. A walking tour is the best way to explore the historic center. Construction of Tui Cathedral began at the end of the 11th century in the Romanesque style. It was probably modeled on the Cathedral of Santiago. Construction work was not completed until the end of the 12th century, meaning that the church is predominantly Gothic in style. It is clear to see that the massive building was not only used for religious purposes, but also for defense. Tui was an important bordered town with Portugal on the other side of the river Minho. The promenade of Tui is the Paseo de la Carredra, northwest of the cathedral. Bars, restaurants and stores are lined up here in old town houses. The path leads past a beautiful music pavilion with a cafe to the Church of San Francisco, 17th century. It is worth continuing the stroll to the end point. In the small gardens with the Glorieta de Vigo and a sculpture of wild horses, there is a beautiful viewpoint of the Rio Minho. This is the end of the world. This was considered a fact as long as the continent of America in the west was unknown to people on the Iberian Peninsula. Cabo Finisterre is the end point of the extension of the classic Way of St. James from Santiago de Compostela. The cape lies at the end of a headland that stretches southwards from the village of Finisterre. A spur road leads to it, which has to be shared by cars, buses and pilgrims. On the way, the wide bay of the Ria de Corcubion and the opposite hills of the Rías Baixas open up to the east. The Ferro de Finisterre lighthouse dates back to 1868 and is one of the most important on this coast, which is notorious for its winter storms and countless ships have been wrecked on its cliffs. Footpaths lead down to the tip of the cape. Men and women sit on the macchia, strewn with stones and boulders, while their gaze wanders over the endless expanse of the Atlantic. Groups of pilgrims rejoice loudly or quietly at reaching the last destination on their pilgrimage. Despite the prohibition sign, the mast of an antenna serves as a carrier for things no longer needed on the long hike: worn-out shoes, cloths, cards and letters with memories and wishes. A colorful mast with relics of the past and hope for a good future. The capital of the province of the same name, Ourense, the only one in Galicia without its own coastline, is located on important routes between Galicia and Portugal as well as to central Spain. Here, too, it was the Romans who built a bridge over the River Minho and stationed a garrison in the area of today's main square. The Romans loved bathing in warm springs, and the town's thermal springs offered the best conditions for this. The center is hidden behind a front of modern functional buildings. The Rio Minho divides the provincial capital into a northern and a southern half. Numerous bridges cross the river. The Pontevedra is the oldest bridge connecting the two banks. From here, the main street Rua do Progresso leads directly into the center and old town of Ourense. The small Alameda do Concello Park with the market hall behind it marks the place where you should turn left along Avenida de Pontevedra towards the center of the old town. To the left is the Praça Maior of the town hall, Casa do Concello. If you are out and about in the morning, don't miss out on a visit to the market. The stalls selling a wide variety of breads made from rye, corn, wheat or nuts will catch your eye. Empanadas filled with meat, fish or mussels are another specialty. The central thermal spring of Ourense is located southwest of the old town. The hot sulfur springs of Asborgas bubble up from the ground at a temperature of 67 degrees. The town of just under 100,000 people is located in an agricultural area. City life ripples along at a quiet pace. The old town, which is surrounded by city walls, is a listed building and has largely retained its original character. In the southern part of the old town, the green Praça Maior square with benches and the town hall is the central meeting point. The originally Romanesque cathedral Catedrale de Santa Maria, which was consecrated in 1273, rises to the southwest. It was rebuilt and extended several times over the following centuries. Today, the church presents itself with Gothic, Baroque and neoclassical style elements. The most beautiful part of the old town is around the Praça do Campo Square, north of the cathedral. Bars and restaurants are lined up here and along the outgoing Rua Nova. Local specialties include pulpo à la gallega, caldo gallego, empanada gallega and trout. The Rua Nova leads to the beautiful old town square Praça de Saudade with the provincial museum and the church of San Pedro. The city walls of Lugo, Las Murallas, have a thickness of 5 and are up to 12 meters high. 10 city gates form the entrance to the city center and around 80 defensive towers rise along the fortifications. This has proven to be extremely effective throughout history. Neither Moors nor pirates were able to conquer the city. This was only achieved by Napoleon's troops at the beginning of the 19th century. The Cies Islands are a natural paradise near Vigo, a good hour's drive from Santiago de Compostela. Because of their beauty, the Romans called them the Islands of the Gods. They are also part of the Atlantic Islands National Park. The archipelago consists of 3 islands. You can take a day trip and visit the natural attractions. The only way to get to the Cies Islands is by boat. However, the number of visitors per day is limited. You must therefore apply for an access permit in advance. You can then reserve your boat ticket. After a 40-minute crossing, you will reach this natural paradise. The 800-meter-long, impressive beach awaits you right next to the Rhodos Pier landing stage. This connects the 2 islands of Monteagudo and Ferrol. Due to its fine white sand, clear emerald green water and adjacent dunes, it was voted the best beach in the world by The Guardian. The Cies Islands are one of the most important attractions in the Parque Nacional Ilhas Atlânticas. The nature park includes areas on land with steep cliffs and in the water with protected seabeds. Life on this stretch of coast is therefore very diverse and rich. The islands offer ideal conditions for many animals thanks to their diverse habitats. In addition to the sea creatures that frolic in the water, birds nest in the cliffs. The port city of La Coruña is located on the northwest coast of Galicia in the province of the same name, which is known for its green landscape and rugged coastline. Galicia borders the Cantabrian Sea to the north and the Atlantic Ocean to the west. Thanks to its beautiful location on a headland on the Atlantic Ocean, La Coruña is a popular vacation destination. The natural harbour of La Coruña was already used by the Phoenicians and Celts before the Romans took advantage of it. The Tower of Hercules, which was built around 110 AD, is a reminder of that time. When the Suebi ruled in the 5th century, Corunium was temporarily the capital of the kingdom. The city was first mentioned in documents in the 13th century under the name La Coruña. Its heyday was in the 14th and 15th centuries, as it was visited by English pilgrims on the Way of St. James. Another milestone in its history is the Battle of La Coruña on January 16, 1809, as part of the Spanish War of Independence. Over the course of time, the city has developed into a popular tourist destination that is often visited by cruise ships due to its well-developed port. The main beaches in La Coruña are Riesa and Ourense. They are located below the beach promenade, which is perfect for a stroll. However, it is definitely worth exploring the other beaches in the region. Visitors to Santiago should not miss the opportunity to climb to the roofs of the cathedral. Santiago is much easier to understand from above, and this perspective also gives the city a more authentic and mystical feel. From the rooftops, we can see the Cruz dos Farrapos, a cross at the foot of which medieval pilgrims burned their old clothes from the pilgrimage route and thus underwent a kind of purification ritual. This is also an opportunity to see the different construction phases of the temple and the different architectural styles that were used until the magnificent work was completed. A World Heritage Site since 1985, Santiago de Compostela has been attracting visitors and pilgrims from all over the world for centuries. Although it is the most cosmopolitan city in Galicia, it accepts this so calmly that you feel like you belong here from the very first moment. Santiago simply has it all. In the old town, the cathedral and the Portico de Gloria. Emblematic squares such as the Praça do Obradoiro, Praça de Quintana and Praça do Touro. Churches, monasteries and city palaces wherever you look, Romanesque, Gothic, Baroque. But also stores, bars, restaurants and a wonderful market hall overflowing with fresh produce. And right in the center, the Alameda with its camellia trees and the Paseo de Ferradura with its magnificent view of the cathedral. And on the banks of the Sar, the Colegiata de Santa Maria with its unusual leaning columns. Playa de las Catedrales is one of the most spectacular stretches of coastline in Spain due to its impressive rock formations. At high tide, the cliffs are lapped by the sea and many of the rock formations become islands in the surf, but at low tide the sandy beach emerges and reveals why it is called the Beach of Cathedrals. Stone pillars and arches, created by water and wind over thousands of years, connect the cliff shore with the Atlantic Ocean and are reminiscent of the massive vaults of a Gothic cathedral. The steep cliffs tower up into jagged formations, with narrow aisles opening up on the ground in between, reminiscent of a huge nave. If the tide is particularly low, the beach is completely exposed and visitors can walk through some of the exposed arches. So if you want to enjoy a walk on the beach, you should keep an eye on the tides. In summer, however, a spontaneous visit becomes difficult. In order to prevent the tourist rush, only a limited number of visitors are allowed on the beach between the beginning of July and the end of September. A special permit is required to access the beach, which is free of charge but must be applied for on the official website of the Galician government. The excursion to the 341-meter-high Monte de Santa Trega is rewarded with an impressive panoramic view of the mouth of the river Minho into the Atlantic. Another attraction are the excavations of a Celtic village. The Rio Minho is the longest river in Galicia. In its southern section, it forms the border with neighboring Portugal. Monte Santa Trega is located south of Alguada, the most southwesterly town in Galicia. The way up the mountain is via a toll road. The toll also serves as admission to the museum grounds. The Celts settled on this prominent hill in the 6th century BC. The outline of the preserved village complex, Castro de Santa Trega, has been partially reconstructed. Prehistoric rock carvings in the surrounding stones indicate the long settlement history of the site. Finds from the excavations can be viewed in the small museum. Even those who are not so interested in the past will be thrilled by the view of the surrounding area. The view sweeps over the Portuguese and Galician coastal mountains. Beautiful white sandy beaches can be discovered along the River Minho. A small island with a Portuguese fortress lies off the estuary. And of course there is also a small restaurant up here with a lovely terrace. Monte Trega is certainly one of the most beautiful viewpoints on Rías Baixas, the west coast of Galicia. The Ézaro Waterfall in the province of La Coruña is an incredible natural phenomenon that delights all visitors. The Ézaro Waterfall is the only waterfall in Europe that flows directly into the sea. Its water does not flow into a river or lake. This natural phenomenon makes the waterfall even more spectacular and special. From a height of 40 meters, the Jalles River plunges into the Atlantic Ocean, creating a breathtaking landscape that cannot be seen anywhere else on the continent. Another fascinating feature of the Ézaro Waterfall is that, due to its location at the mouth of the River Jalles, the water of the waterfall combines the characteristics of fresh and salt water. The waterfall is even more impressive at night thanks to its special lighting. Since 1994, floodlights have been installed to illuminate the waterfall and create a magical and mesmerizing effect. The nighttime lighting highlights the different shades and hues of the water, creating a completely different visual experience to that of daytime in the summer months. Light and music shows take place, with the waterfall becoming the main stage. The capital of the province of the same name is located on the river Liris in the southwest of Galicia. This flows into the Ria de Pontevedra, a bay of the Rías Baixas, whose flooded estuaries characterize the Galician west coast. The old town, which is well worth seeing, nestles to the south on an arc that the Rio Liris describes shortly before it flows into the Atlantic. The Romans built a port at this point. This is historically proven. However, legend has it that the city was founded by the Greeks before that. The natural harbour created the conditions for the development of an important trading town in the Middle Ages. Pontevedra is a stop on the Portuguese way of St. James to Santiago. In the 19th century, the port silted up, and the neighbouring port city of Vigo overtook Pontevedra in terms of economic importance and the number of inhabitants. Today, however, Pontevedra offers a high quality of life and a historic old town, which as an ensemble is one of the most beautiful in Galicia. Granite is the stone from which almost everything here was built. And if it weren't for the many lively small and large squares and the green parks, the color of the grey stone could be a bit of a blow to the soul. Especially when the rain falls from the grey clouds. Because precipitation is a reliable companion in Galicia, and it is an advantage that Pontevedra has many sheltering arcades in case the rain comes from above. The location on the Ria de Ferrol is unique. The centre is characterised by the prosperous bourgeoisie of the 19th century. Hikers rediscover Ferrol as the start of the English Way of St. James, Camino de Santiago Ingles. Surfers will find perfect conditions on the northern beaches of the Rías Altas. The elongated centre stretches between the Praça de Espanha in the east and the historic old town of Ferrol Velho with the cruise terminal in the west. To the south is the Spanish Navy's war port. Where the cruise ships now dock, pilgrims from England used to come ashore to set off from here on the English Way of St. James to Santiago de Compostela. Today, you can get your first stamp in the Pilgrim's Book at the Tourist Information Office on Paseo de Marina. However, the route through the first alleyways of the Way of St. James is disappointing, with rundown houses to the right and left that are in urgent need of renovation. A glance at the map makes it clear why Ferrol has been developed as a war port for the Spanish Navy since the beginning of the 18th century. The narrow natural entrance to the Ria de Ferrol is ideal for protecting the fjord and the military installations and shipyards behind it. This is why the fortresses Castillo de San Felipe and Castillo de la Palma were built opposite each other at the narrowest point on both sides as early as the 16th century.